Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Today it's subscriber spotlight time. This is Punk Hunter, and he's a big fan of his Tier 8 premiums. Starting off with the Lowe, German Tier 8 premium heavy tank, and a very, very popular choice of Tier 8 premium tank. This is one of the ones that most people tend to go for because of that reputation for German excellence in tank design. And the Lowe does get a pretty bad rep. For that reason, a lot of guys find themselves frustrated when they hit Tier 4 and they suddenly can't upgrade to the next rank of tanks within half an hour of getting their first new tank. The real grind in the game begins at Tier 4. They get frustrated, they pop over to the gift shop, they buy themselves a Tier 8 premium, and it's usually either the Lowe or the T34. And that's why the Lowe gets such a bad rep in the game. Not that it is a bad tank, although it isn't a particularly good tank, but so many terrible drivers drive them. Now the Lowe received a couple of buffs recently. It can carry more ammunition. I think it also got slightly better gun depression, but the side armour was buffed in places to 100mm. Of course, the gun has always been pretty good. But that side armour buff was actually pretty significant, because if you ask most people what the Lowe is good for, they'll say long-range sniping. Just about nobody will tell you that the Lowe is good as a knockdown, drag-out, slugging, frontline fighting heavy tank. Well, we're going to see about that. In the hands of a decent driver, you'd be surprised at what you can do in this thing these days. Punk Hunter's made it to the top of the hill here on Himmelsdorf. He's got a Super Pershing with him, which is decent support, but the majority of the tanks on his team are all clustering at the road leading up to the top of the hill, and they will not get up here. Which means that Punk Hunter and the few of the tanks on his team that have made it up to the castle on the top of the hill are in severe danger of being surrounded, overrun, and shot at from all sides. They're effectively outnumbered 2, possibly 3 to 1. This is not an ideal situation in which to be in a Lowe, and yet you'd be surprised at what you can do. And the battering that this tank can actually take, thanks to that side armour buff, if you manage to angle it properly. And he is going to die, but you would be astonished at the amount of damage he's able to absorb before they finally get tanks around behind him and finish him off from point blank range. The situation is hopeless, but look at this. That angling. Three of them hold off 10 enemy tanks. He does 3,500 damage and absorbs 7,000 damage before they finally take him down. The Lowe is probably one of the last tanks anybody would willingly choose to be in that kind of situation. Most people would rather take a T34 or an IS-6, and for very, very good reasons. The Lowe is not at its best in that kind of position, and yet, driven intelligently, angled properly, you can do it. Okay, let's see how he can perform when he's using the tank in its more traditional long-range support role, and that's something that the tank is very good at. We're on the Arctic map, which of course represents the Mannerheim line in Finland, in the battles between Finland and Russia. This is a Tier 9 match. Punk Hunter's team actually has one more Tier 9 than the enemy team. I just noticed. They've got a T95. The enemy team just have Conqueror, AMX 5120 and a T54. The Lowe, of course, does not get premium matchmaking. It can see Tier 10 tanks. unlike the IS6 and the FCM50T, which are Tier 8 premium heavies who are limited to Tier 9 matchmaking. The IS6 because of the terrible penetration on its 122mm gun, the FCM50T for reasons which completely escape me. I have no idea why. I've platooned up with other Tier 8s in my FCM50T, gotten into Tier 10 games and killed Tier 10 tanks. I do not understand why the FCM50T gets premium matchmaking, but it does. The Lowe doesn't. And of course all that time babbling on about the matchmaking, disguising the fact that it took absolutely forever for the Lowe to get up this relatively small incline. Regardless of any buffs that might have been made to the ammo capacity or the side armour, the engine is just as weak and weedy as it always was. This is not a mobile tank. He's up here now with an AT-15 who appears to be using the 17-pounder gun. Doesn't look like he's got the 20-pounder yet. And the AT-15 has just had his tracks blown off, so he's kind of stuck there for the moment. But he does have Punk Hunter helping him. Tiger 2 fires, bounces off his gun mantlet. Now he can move up, point the gun down, and even in the upper glacis of the Tiger 2, because he's shooting down into it, it's negating the effect of the angling, which means he can penetrate the upper glacis of the Tiger 2 from that position. Now in this position you can see he keeps checking his right flank. That's because this spot is very vulnerable from flanking fire from the other side of the valley, but nobody appears to be taking advantage of it, so he starts working over the flank of a Jagdpanther 2. Now most people would agree that the gun is probably the best single feature on the Lowe, and yet it is a bit of a compromise. The alpha damage isn't particularly good, the rate of fire is pretty slow. The DPM is low, but it is very, very accurate, and it has good penetration. It has 0.33 accuracy and 234mm of penetration, even though it only does 320 damage per shot. And now he's got another Lowe to shoot at. Most people's instincts in this kind of situation would be to aim for the lower glacis. Because you're on higher ground and firing down into it, that's actually a very, very bad idea. And it is counterintuitive, but it's worth remembering that if you're firing from a superior angle, you should be aiming at the upper glacis, because you're negating the effect of the sloping of the upper glacis by shooting down into it. You're actually increasing the effect of the sloping of the lower glacis if you're firing down into that. And while that enemy Lowe was tunnel visioning on the T-71 in front of him, this AT-15 and Punk Hunter just had all the time in the world they needed to take him apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, Punk Hunter's looking at his map. Initially, he's looking at the position of the T-95 and thinking that guy needs support. T-95, very powerful machine, but very, very inflexible. Doesn't react well to changing circumstances, and once you're committed to one side of the map, you're pretty much stuck there. But then he stops, and he sees the M103 over on this corner being rushed. But, well, rushed. You don't rush anything in a T-28 prototype and a Super Pershing, but this is the most immediate threat. He can actually do something about this. Whereas the T-95 doesn't appear to be in any immediate danger. Now this is long range. 234mm of penetration is alright, but at this kind of range you lose a lot of penetration, and he is having to shoot at the front of a T-28 prototype and a Super Pershing, so he has a limited supply of APCR ammunition. He switches to that to help out the M103, kills the T-28, Super Pershing starts backing off, M103 has plenty of health, should be able to deal with the Super Pershing, turns around and heads off to help the T-95, who is in danger of being outflanked. Now, while he's rushing, he's in a Lowe, they don't rush anywhere, but while he's moving to the support of this T-95 to defend it against the T-71, keep an eye on the map, have a look what's going on in the southeast corner. There was a T-25-2 and a T-34 coming around from the north, and the M103 coming around from the south. Punk Hunter took care of the T-28 that was threatening, the M103. But the enemy Conqueror has successfully fought off the T25-2 and T34, which leaves all of those tanks free to concentrate their firepower against the M103. There's also an AMX-5120 down there. AT-15 comes around to assist against this T-71, who is not going down easily. Finally. Right, they've managed to save the T-95. There's only the 3 of them left. And there's a very, very strong force of enemy tanks, including 2 Tier 9s, coming around from the south. And the 3 tanks that we have left are definitely not fast and manoeuvrable machines, so the best thing to do here is to dig in, defend, and let them come to us. Now, these 3 tanks are pretty good at digging in, defending. The problem is the speed of the T-95. Is he going to be able to get back in time to make any kind of difference? Probably not. Some good news, however. The AMX-5120 is a one-shot kill. And the Super Pershing doesn't appear to realise that his strongest armour is at the front of the tank. So we may not actually need the help of the T-95. And this has got to be frustrating for the T-95 driver. He spent the entire game driving up to the northwest corner where he ended up getting circled and made to look stupid by a T-71, got rescued by his teammates, turned around turned around to come back and defend the base, and it's all going to be over before he gets back there. But that's what it's like driving T-95s. Punk Hunter, meanwhile, would dearly love to know where that Conqueror is. That AMX-5120 driver does sound very upset about something though, doesn't he? Well, and Punk Hunter can't resist trolling him a little, but hey, they've found the Conqueror. And he's a one-shot kill, and the T-95 misses. That poor guy. Finally, something to shoot at. Damn you, gun! And, you know, you can say what you like about the Lowe, but it rarely misses. So, there's his 7th kill. One more, and it's only a Panzer 4S. One more for a Radley Walters. Come on. Oh, oh. Plot twist. He missed. Oh, oh, shock ending, shock ending. Come on. T-95 loads. Another plot twist. The T-95 is only using the 120mm gun. Radley Walters medal secured. So, sneaky little Radley Walters medal. Top Gun as well, obviously, and his ace tanker badge in the Lowe. The Lowe, of course, making a metric ass ton of credits. That's what Tier 8 premiums are for. And doing 4,700 damage as well as getting 8 kills in a Tier 9 match. Not a bad result for what is generally considered one of the most mediocre of the Tier 8 premium heavy tanks. And so it's nice to see somebody doing well in it and showing you what you can actually do with this thing if you drive it intelligently. So that was Punk Hunter, today's subscriber spotlight in World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.